Come on.
They're right there!
Let's go. Move, 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 move. This episode of Choices Not Chances podcast is sponsored by Louisiana Gun Shop, located on Highway 90 West in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. For more information, stay tuned at the end of this episode. This is Choices Not Chances podcast with Ryan and Matt. I'm your co-host, Matthew Charette. Sitting next to me is Ryan Rogers. Ryan.
All right, hey guys, thanks and welcome back to the show. We appreciate you coming out. And just like every other episode, if there's anything within this episode that resonates and that you want to share with other people, please don't be selfish with the information. Today's guest is somebody that I've known for quite some time, since the Marjah push. He was 0341 with 3.6 coming in into Marjah 1. And he's actually mentioned in the book Lions of Marjah. We'll go over that a little bit later. Later after Marjah, he became a school-trained scout sniper, and then goes on to AITB to actually work and instruct at the actual school level for snipers, which is something that we'll get into a little bit, but not too much. And Kyle Mihalecz, been trying to get him on the show for a minute, and one thing or another, logistics wouldn't really kind of pan out for us, but now it's we've made it happen. So thanks for coming on, bro.
Hey, thanks. Really good to talk to you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I've been looking forward to the conversation. I've had a couple of the Marjah guys on that, push with us. The guys that are watching the show, it's not all Marjah Marines, but it's some of us. And I've been really wanting to get people. I've had a couple of the guys from inside my squad or inside my platoon, but you did great things in your own right, in that push, and I'd like to get to that at some point. But before we get started, pushing down into 2010, I'd like to go back before that, because I like to try to understand where people are coming from. Like, what was the family dynamic, brothers, sisters, parents, was the religion in the household, that kind of stuff. So if you can kind of take me to the beginning and where you come from, and we'll work up to service.
Yeah, not a problem. So I was born in a small city in southern New Jersey, Bridgeton, it's called. My parents divorced at a really young age. I think I was maybe preschool or kindergarten, and then my mother got remarried. I stayed with her for most of my life through childhood. And then my father got remarried shortly after that. And he lived, like in the next town over. But I would go see my dad every weekend, with the rights and all that. And my brother and I, we go visit, and I mean, he was, a huge impact in my life as far as, hunting, doing some shooting, stuff like that, outdoor stuff. He always tried to stay connected. And I still have a really close relationship with him now. As far as my mom, I mean, she did what she could as, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, you know what I mean? We seemed like we were bouncing from house to house every year. Renting and everything. I must have went to a dozen different schools growing up in the area. She got divorced again when I was in high school from my stepfather. And then she's now married to the same man that she met after that, and they live down in South Carolina. And I got a pretty good relationship with them. We just don't get down there too much. You know how it is. I mean, being up here, and I relocated back to Jersey after after 10 years, and and now we're just kicking it up here.
Gotcha. So you spent more time at your mom's or less time?
More time, I would say.
Okay. And that's just because of custody agreements and things of that nature is kind of out of it.
Yeah.
But your dad still stayed very involved, got you on the man path as far as hunting, tracking, fishing, outdoor stuff. That's great. Now, was religion in the household at any point when you were growing up?
Not on my mom's side, but on my dad's side. My stepmother, we went to a Baptist church there. So I was born Catholic, but we never kept up with the Catholic religion stuff. I think I went to a Catholic school for like kindergarten through second grade, I think, in a town nearby. and we just never kept up with it. But they always went to a Baptist church here in town, and you know, we would go every weekend. It was part of our Sunday ritual. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that's where I kind of developed, you know, a sense of, you know, some sort of higher being,
Sure,
God.
sure. And your brother, how old? Older or younger?
I have an old. This is yeah, it's kind of wild.
Okay.
So I got, I got my biological brother that I lived with. You know, that's what you know between my mom and dad.
Mhm.
His Nick, and he's a Navy corpsman. And
Shout out.
he's 2.5 years younger than me. And he's been in since he was 18, so now he's probably going on 14, 15 years now.
Check.
Uh, yeah, he's down there in Maysville now.
Oh, he's down here by me.
Yeah, yep, yeah, right by you. He's right down the road from there, from what is it, Alliance?
What was that range we shot at was out that
Yeah,
way, right?
yep,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's right down the street from there. That's who I stayed with when I was down there and saw you last year.
Now now hold on a second, because your other that's not Nick though, is it?
Yeah, that's Nick.
Oh, that's Nick. Okay. And
Yeah,
Nick
yeah.
has his own podcast too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he was doing it for a while, but then he deployed. He had a deployment down to South America, and he came back. And I don't know if he's necessarily messed with it since then. Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Well, what was the name of his podcast?
Going ashore or going what was it? Something going ashore or something like going ashore podcast or something.
Going Shore. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up the exact name.
I wasn't sure if he was still rolling. I know we talked in the beginning a little bit offline
Yeah.
about it, but yeah, make sure he revisits. We revisit that for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was with you at the range, right? When I met up with you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
yeah.
was.
Yeah, good stuff. And you said he's younger,
Yeah, 2.5 years. Yeah.
2.5
I-
years
He's
younger.
got to be 34 now. I'm 36.
And you said he just deployed. Who's he deploying with?
Well, he just got back from. He was at, I believe it was at division level. He was doing something there
Okay.
at this point. So yeah, I at this point I don't really know what he's doing exactly, like at this moment, like who he's with. But
Check.
you know, he was doing some things, you know, with Wounded Warriors and all that stuff. So,
Gotcha.
Sure.
Gotcha. Well, shout out Nick, where you at, man? Get up with me when you get back. Yeah. So as we walk through, you know, it's kind of a split up home. You and your brother stay together, more time at mom's, but you're definitely getting that heavy dose of man things at the dad. And then, do you remember the earliest recollection that you can of wanting to serve, or where that came from?
I mean, I always thought it was kind of. I mean, I played with the GI Joes when I was a kid. You know, I had the guns, the cap guns. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Playing war and all that stuff, or you know, good guy, bad guy stuff. But I really think it probably hit me like in high school. I mean, because I was a freshman for 9/11. I saw that. You know, everybody remembers where they were for that whole thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're about 3 hours from New York City, but it was kind of chaotic here. You know, remembering it all. You know, they locked down the school and they turned on the television, and then they ended up sending all of us home and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
But I thought about it then, and I always thought about, you know, when I did think about it, then it turned into like there was like a gap, you know, and then the Iraq invasion, you know, in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that, and I was, I think, a sophomore or junior in high school at that time.
It was like the shock and awe campaign.
Yeah, yeah, I saw all that from afar, and I saw guys starting to talk to recruiters and stuff, but I never really took it seriously,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then from all that, you know, and then so then from there, I went to after I graduated high school, I went to a community college for 2 years.
Okay.
And
Where at?
yeah, it's called Cumberland County College.
Okay.
It's a local college here. So I got my associate's degree, and then I was about to go to a 4-year university to finish my bachelor's, and I was like, you know, I couldn't do any more school, you know.
I get it.
So I mean, and that's what led me to. So at this point, going back a little bit, my junior or senior year, I moved in with my dad and my stepmom just because of housing situations going on with my mom, you know, and stepdad at that time.
Gotcha.
I moved in with them. I finished high school with them, and that's where I started my college, you know, because you live at home when you go to community college, you know, no big deal. So I finished that up, and I'm starting to talk to them about joining the service. And they see what's going on. They're smarter than me at this point. With the news and everything. 'Cause I'm not,
Geopolitics, you mean?
yeah, I'm not paying attention to that. I just see what I see is I'm seeing like gunslingers and stuff on the news. You know what I mean? Like that's and I was like, that's what I want to do. Well, they kind of talked to me. They kind of talked me out of it at first. The whole infantry, Marine Corps thing, and all that. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll go talk to an Air Force recruiter and see what they got to tell me. So I actually was in the depth for the Air Force initially.
Huh.
And yeah, and it was like something that wasn't in my heart. I felt like I wasn't, it's nothing against them guys. We all serve a purpose, but it was like, it's not what I wanted to do,
Check.
So,
And
I was
you
like,
and you got that feeling from the DEP program.
I don't know if it was necessarily from the depth. I just knew that, I wasn't going to be.
You think you were more doing it just to appease your parents, and then the more close
Yeah.
it got, it was like, no, it's just not my people.
Yeah,
I
pretty
gotcha.
much. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? If I'm doing this thing, and we had that discussion, I said, I'm doing it how I want to do it,
That's right.
And I mean, that's when I told them, hey, I'm out, and went right across the hallway to the Marine Corps recruiter and talked to him. And I think I graduated college in early May, and I was off to in 2008, and I was off to boot camp like 2 weeks later, right around Memorial Day.
Now, how did that go with your brother?
So that's the funny thing. So my brother Nick, I got other siblings too. I got a half brother Joe on my dad's side. He's older than me. And then I got 3 step siblings as well from my stepmother.
Sure.
But with my brother Nick, I didn't even know he went to boot camp with the Navy the same time as I did in the Marine Corps, like 2 weeks later. Like, so you like find out through a letter, oh yeah, your brother's in boot camp. It's like,
Oh.
So his story was, he always had like this medical thing, that he wanted to do, that type of stuff. Like, I mean, in some ways we're similar, but in other ways we're like polar opposites, So he initially went to them and was like, hey, I want to be a corpsman. And they were jerking him around, with the date he was leaving and all that stuff. Well, then I don't know, somehow he ended up telling them, hey, if you don't get me my contract and I leave within this month, I'm joining the Marine Corps and following my brother, because he just left and got what he wanted,
Check.
So if they probably would have told him no, he probably would have been right there in another battalion right alongside of us, which he ended up turning out being in 2-6 anyway.
Okay.
And, so
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys, so you're stationed on the same damn base and everything. That's good.
Yeah, he actually ended up living with me for a little bit in between deployments.
That's sick. That's dope. I wish I could. I did have a little bit of family. My brother moved down for a couple years. He moved down when we deployed in 10, and kind of helped my wife, and him and his wife came and stayed, and ended up planting down here for a little bit. But they're back up in Ohio now. But that's cool. Now explain. Now, what's your relationship with your 3 step siblings? Is it you pretty tight with them?
I mean, we're not really tight, I would say. It's just, I mean, everybody's busy all the time now.
Life. I mean, growing up though, when you left for boot camp, are you tight then?
I would say we were okay together. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I mean, we all knew each other from such a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the reason I ask, is it's just leaving siblings it hits a little different. Like it hit a little different for me, even though I wanted to go and everybody was happy, that I was doing what I wanted to do. I had 3 brothers that I had to look at and be like, hey, I'll see you later, and you don't know when later is going to be. Later might be 18 years later.
Right.
In some dynamics, some family settings. So, did you seem to struggle with that at all, or was it just like, this is what I got to do and I'm doing it?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really remember struggling with that. I do know that is because, I mean, maybe it's because I had a young fiance at the time. So my wife and I were engaged when I left and everything. So I guess that was probably in my head more than, you know, the other things. I mean, we're both young, both 21 years old,
Sure.
22 years old, starting this new chapter in our life. And, and I mean, she's been great through the whole thing. I mean, we're still together, been married 14 years now, got 2 kids, she's been through all that stuff,
Yep. Yep. Special
and,
woman.
oh yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you what, them women really hold it together when we were doing what we did.
Oh man, yeah, and they held it together,
takes a
and
special one to do it.
yeah, it does, and not only just to hold it together while we're gone, but then the aftermath of it, the all the things that come with war that we talk about on the show often, and I've had conversations with my war buddies many times where it's like, yeah, like I can't believe some of them don't leave, like the things that they have to go through, and the change. You got to fall in love with a new person maybe sometimes, that kind of change. So shout out to all the wives and spouses out there and girlfriends holding it down for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So 9/11 you think is probably what would have been your catalyst, your pushing pull?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I always got good grades in school. They had this program back then. I don't know if they still have it now here in the state, but if you graduated with over a 3.5, you got to attend 2 years school for free, like tuition free, So I took advantage of that. And if you maintained a certain GPA, you could go to a 4-year university, and basically it's paid for as well, like a scholarship. So I was taking advantage of that. I didn't want to give that up yet, I guess, until I wanted to give it up,
Right. Understand. But you got your associates out of it.
Yeah.
Then you join the Marine Corps, and off you go. And then you're going to be 360 is your first unit then, probably, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And you check into 36 when? 09? 08?
Was it? No, yeah, October of 08. I think I finished SOI. They bust us over. And it was like my whole company got our whole boot drop, because I can remember that master sergeant marching us through drop us off, marching us. And then I think those boys had just got home from Iraq, so some of them were still around, and you can just hear the screams from the catwalk, and the third deck, boo, the whole. Yeah, and he's marching us, the whole company. And then what's funny is like, what I'll never forget is they were still on leave. I think some of them, like a block leave or something. Some guys were around,
like post deployment or something.
Yeah. And they had us do like fire watch, like roving fire watch on the barracks, wearing our road guard vests and stuff like that, dude. Oh my goodness. It was like, that was the worst thing that you could throw, 150 privates into.
Yeah, not fun.
Right off the bat, man.
At least there were 150 of you and not like 10 of you.
Yeah, that's true too.
10's worse.
Yeah, I mean, when you're all boots, you all blend in together. So
that's right. It's harder to get picked out, man.
Yeah.
So what was that? Was that on Thursday?
It could have been.
It's usually that field day night when that boot drop comes, man. For some reason.
Yeah, it may have been. And I mean, they kept us in our own little like platoons until the command got back.
Oh, because it was like no senior guys there, right? Like ones and twos. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you had guys transitioning, you had guys coming in, starting to come in, all that stuff. So, yeah. And then not sure what month it was, but they dropped us into that, into our companies and our platoons. We found out where we were going.
Check. And you go to Kilo, yeah?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I went right to Kilo Company. My whole section was pretty much, we were all boots, man. Like, and we.
And you're a 41 in the beginning, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I knew I wanted to get sent to 60s. I didn't want to go to 81s just because.
You want to be light guns instead of heavy?
Yeah.
And why?
And you're doing a little more. I mean, we were carrying it everywhere we went, overseas, you know what I mean? You got multiple ways to employ it. And I felt like you were more in the fight if you were with that weapon system. Because, in boot camp, not boot camp, but SOI, we really didn't get a choice,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, you guys are all riflemen. They pull riflemen from weapons platoon. Hey, switching in and out, and they're like, hey, you guys are going to be 51s, machine gunners, mortarmen,
Yep.
like
And
you know,
you had a high GT score and good grades, and they looked at you and said, "Yeah, you're going to be a weapons MOS."
yeah, maybe that's the way they looked at it. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
were you an instructor at ITB afterwards? Oh, you were
No,
at
I was
AITB.
just at AITB.
Yeah, so like at an ITB company, and it's kind of jacked up. But even when I was there, like when I was at Alpha Company, as soon as the boot, as soon as the boot drop would come, they would get divvied up, and you'd take the highest GT scores would go to all the weapons MOSs.
Okay,
Generally,
okay,
generally speaking, I'm not saying everybody did it that way, but generally speaking, that's how it went.
yeah,
Usually, mortars and 52s would get the super smart guys, machine guns get the next down, and then everybody else would kind of rung down to us, unless they wanted to be an 11.
right.
And sometimes, they didn't get a
I,
choice.
I mean, also, I was ignorant. I didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you see what you see on television. You play, you play whatever video games you might have played back then. You whatever it is, you watch, your war movies and everything, and like I didn't know the difference between a rifleman and I mean, common sense would tell you a mortar what it does or a machine gun or I had no idea what an assaultman was. I was just thinking of breaching and shooting rockets, like
Right. And then you learn that at SOI, though. And so I
yeah.
assume, because I served with you just after, I assume you got some pretty good training, at least in the handheld.
Oh yeah, yeah. Or I remember
Go through
our
that a little
instructor,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, Christian Balance. I believe that's his name. Yeah, I think he's an officer now.
Shout out.
Yeah. So he I mean, he was a phenomenal instructor. I mean, with us. I remember one period during you know how you do like the whole you do everything together at first and then you do your weapon split, like towards the backhand.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I can remember him just running us through drill after drill after drill and those, right in the quads, you know what I mean? And then
You like gun drills, you mean? Bubbling up,
yeah,
getting
yeah,
set.
gun drill, that stuff, calling in our adracs, learning that at a young age and everything like that,
Sure.
you know, taking orders for that. And then also, I can't remember when it was. They got to do something similar to this now. I think it was towards the end. You do like a PEX, but you go to all these different stations and you do a lot of hiking and everything. Does that
No,
does
are
that
you
ring?
talking about at SOI?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
yeah. So it was something like that, and I can remember on a hike back from Verona, probably on a Friday or whatever, injuring my foot. Like I think I had a stress fracture or something, and I mean it was bad. Like you know how it is when you're
And you're
hurt.
hiking weight.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like new to me, and I was hurting bad, and I made it back fine or whatever. And then that Monday we went back out to the field again, and we're doing like all these evolutions, like as like a section, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
around different stations and stuff. And I was like, I was hurting, and he asked me, he was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, staff. I think it was staff sergeant or sergeant at the time. I was like, Sergeant, my foot is jacked up, like it hurts right by the toes. And he was like, "Well, I ain't never dropped nobody yet." He was like, "I'm not dropping anybody now." So, I mean, just the impact. Like, think about that as an instructor. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like if he would have just said, "You know what? Screw it. I don't want to take a chance of this kid getting hurt," and you know, and then possibly it coming back on me, or like I didn't go see a corpsman or nothing. I just sucked it up. But like, what would have happened with my career would have totally changed.
Yeah, could have completely went a different direction, especially if
Yeah.
you got rolled back. You miss Marjah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it would have just been, a different universe for me.
Would have been different. Would
Yeah.
have been different.
So yeah, I do think about that sometimes, and and I pushed through and, we graduated and all that. And then I actually got to have him as an instructor when I went back to mortar leader course at AITB.
Okay.
So he was one of my instructors there for that, and it's a pretty tough course,
Is that
Man,
before Marjah or after Marjah?
that was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Now,
Yeah.
now, what do you do? Okay, what's some of the stuff you're learning there? Because I never,
Um,
that's not my, that's not my forte. Like, what
yeah.
at advanced motor leaders, what are you learning? Like, I understand
So,
the first part, but what are you learning there?
so you're learning, so you're doing basic mission planning stuff, getting your feet wet with that. Um, and then you're
You
doing
mean like fire mission planning,
yeah, fire
tracker
mission.
boards and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, like taking like pre-planned targets, stuff like that. And then you get into employment of the weapon systems, the 60s and the 81s, and then FDC is a heavy portion of it. On your
Explain that.
60 boards and your 81 boards, your fire direction center, like basically, so you're putting a map on a board, with your plots, with your, position, and then the positions of friendlies, and then also enemies, and figuring out, I guess, your trajectory, but also your azimuth to, engage the target successfully.
And we're talking about, because we're going to be firing over units, and then there becomes an issue, especially if you have air end zone of deconfliction. Yes. So understanding your max ord, and all of that's being taught at that school.
Yes. Yeah. All of it. Yeah. It's pretty, yeah, I would say it's one of the more mental schools that I've been through, as far as that stuff goes. Yeah. Because
and that's
coming, if you screw that up, you screw it up, somebody's going to get hurt.
You're potentially hurting or killing some of your own people. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of stress involved with it, as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And so I'm assuming that coming out of advanced mortar leader course, you're probably at the top of your mortar game, right?
Yeah.
And when did you go to that? Or like, when did you graduate that school?
I want to say it was sometime in 2009. I was, the few guys I went to it with from my battalion, they were all squared away mortarmen, another one was in our section as well. All squared away guys. And we did fairly well as a group, 436 in that course, even compared to some of the senior guys that were in there. Yeah, so.
Which makes sense to me. Like, I didn't know that, I missed all of the workup with 3.6, which, I've talked about it enough on the show, but I missed all of that. So it's interesting going back and hearing where you guys, fell in at and the different training you got. Clearly the training was great, because you guys did great things afterwards, but I missed the workup. So I always like talking to, that back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're going to come out of that, like in 2009, and then you guys are going to do your main evolution out in the West Coast, right?
Yeah. I think shortly after that, we did, we came back. I remember being in the rear for a little bit, and then we did a couple hikes and stuff, I believe. I can't remember how it lines up, if we did the hikes after or what, but I got meritoriously promoted to corporal during that time frame. Like really young, finding myself as a leader, because I was leading like my peers now, like, which is, it's the most difficult thing to do.
I was going to say, why don't you shed some light on that a little bit, because that's something that is difficult.
Yeah. It's a cliche to say, everyone always says it, but until you've sat, in that chair, or you're the voice up front, leading guys, you have the same amount of experience as they do. I would say that, it's difficult. 100%. And it also takes a mentality where, and I've learned over the course of time, you got to treat people different. There are some people that respond to getting yelled at. There's some people that respond to, hey man, get pulled aside, let me talk to you, like, That's right. It's just the way it is. I was fortunate throughout my time in 3.6 or AITB, wherever I went, I had really good leaders, like people I could go to. And if they weren't, I'd take what I liked from them, and then what I didn't, I'd throw it in the trash. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Build tools, for that leadership toolbox,
That's it. Yeah. I would echo that, especially in 3.6. The small unit leadership level to the middle management was just impeccable. I'm writing a new book right now, a little bit on leadership, and I talk about that as a whole chapter, is because leading peers, like, it takes a different mindset, and especially leading guys like we have, leading combat guys. These are some of your best friends. And sometimes you got to get in their ass, but then it's got to be completely dropped the next day or the next afternoon because you're hanging out later. And that part of it is a balancing act where it's like, I have to correct you, but I don't, it's not a personal thing. And so when you're young, same as you put that on young, it can sow adversity with some of your friends. Cause first of all, I think there's that competition, that you have to, if you're the friend, you have to kind of level with, like, well, he got there before I did, kind of thing. But then he's now in charge of some of your movement and some of your activity. And so what I found is treat people good and people are going to treat you good. Don't let that power go to your head because it's just a title. A title can be removed just as quick. Right. But if you use your title to help your Marines write your fit rep, and that doesn't matter if they're your peers or not. If they recognize that you're using your title to better their life and better their training and look out for them, then there's no way you can go wrong with that. But I would say on that though, man, there's a lot to be said about the different personalities, especially when you're leading in an organization like that. There are some guys who you got to bust their ass and be like, hey, dude, just like this. And that's what they need.
Yeah.
And then there's those other guys that if you were to do that same exact thing, it could shut them down. Boom. And they won't work for you, or they don't, motivation or whatever's gone out the window. And so leading in an organization like that man, you got to feel it out. You got to fail a lot and then kind of recalibrate what worked and what didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same way out here in civilian life as well. I mean, that organization, the Marine Corps, I would say, we can get into it later, is very similar to doing line work that I'm doing now,
Sure. I would like to compare it later.
Yeah. I mean, later on we can go over it. I mean, it's a different mentality, but the same mentality of people. You understand? Like,
sure. Well, and you guys work in a team and you work in an environment where if somebody fucks something up, somebody's going to blow their arms off, I mean, exactly. So it's a trust game that you still play, as a lineman. And that's definitely something that was appetizing to me as I got out, as I was kind of navigating where I wanted to be. I had looked into that, and it's like, these guys go on storms, kind of like little mini deployments. They work in small teams, kind of like we did. They, it's a little bit of danger to it. There's some long hours to it. And I think a lot of guys, especially infantry guys, I think they can make kind of almost a seamless transition into that.
Yeah.
You can speak to it better than I can, but
yeah. And I mean, I know a few. I mean, it's just, the biggest things I've learned about leadership too is like, have multiple ways to attack a problem, and then also don't take it personal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen to the message, not the way it's communicated to you.
That's right.
That's
right.
You can grab the message out of something from somebody. You don't have to like them or not, but as long as you're getting that and they're communicating it to where you can get that, no matter, however it's said to you, whether there's some cuss words thrown in there or, whatever it may be, just take the message. Don't take it personal. Put your head down and move on. Like,
that's right.
Wrap up.
That's right. And, I think that's where a lot of people get sidetracked. Maybe not so much the military or the infantry community, but it can be as you get out and somebody like crushes your little soul in a talk because you jack something up. And instead of like taking that and saying, okay, regardless of how he said that, this is what I messed up and this is how I cannot mess this up again. Instead of that, they just like start feeling bad. Oh, my boss hates me. And now they're going to act a certain way, or be reserved around him. And like, that's just a wrong fucking answer. The answer is exactly what you said. Delete the delivery, retrieve the message, fix it, and move. And, we are all going to fail. If you ever want to do anything in your life worth doing, you're going to fail many times, and failure is where growth is found though, because next time I go into it, now I have a little bit of essay on what not to do.
Right.
So, love that. So getting back to it, you guys get back. I think this is going to be right around where I drop in. You get back from that. We do a couple of hikes and then it's, we make the push. Now, we don't have to spend a ton of time here, or we can. It's really up to you. But I want to know what your big takeaways are. Let's go from the first 10 days, and then I want to talk about that money shot at least in the 5-day war from the handheld.
Okay. So just backing up before the first 10 days a little bit.
Okay.
So when it really hit me, I would say is you remember when we were doing like those IED lanes and stuff? I think we were on Dwyer at that point, weren't we?
No, that was on Leatherneck.
Okay, Leatherneck. Okay. Yeah, so we were doing like those IED lanes and everything. And I can remember being with Heinz Squad. And I did a couple with him. You know, I think we just had a team, you know, with him. And because at that point we knew we were going to be with second platoon, the guys I was with.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, after the first few, he was like, "Hey, you're running this one." And I was like, "I am?" He was like, "Yeah, you're running this one." He was like, "If something happens to me and you're out here, you may need to lead this, you know?" So it was like, okay, you know, and then right on the spot, go through the whole thing, you know, and run it like he would, you know, try to emulate how he was running it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that was like when it really first hit me that, oh, this thing is about to be real, you know?
Yeah, we're about to do this for real.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it hit everybody about that point, right? Between the IED lane and then that little range that they erected for us outside the gate at Leatherneck there, or Dwyer, whichever one it was, where we did the maneuver range, like the squad maneuvers. You remember that range?
Yeah, yep.
When we ran that range and we had rockets from our ANA and we had APOB shots, it was like, okay, boys, this is, yeah. That I've never done a range like this before deployment. I've done a lot of deployments. I've never done any of this in the workup once we got here. So this is going to be different. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, and then when I can remember the first thing, I remember, you know, loading that bus up, and the bus I was on crashed like the night before. Like the driver had like a flashlight out the window that was like brighter than the headlights, and we crashed in that ditch or whatever happened.
I remember hearing about it. I didn't know if it was real or not.
Yeah, it was real. Yeah, I was on that bus. And then I believe we didn't even leave that night. We left like the next night or something.
And the next night, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I can remember I was the last one off, or I was the first one off on my stick on the bird. I believe it was like me, you know, at the time, Stas Arnowen, who was like very helpful throughout that deployment with me.
Oh, he's amazing.
The dude he was, man. And I mean, he like.
Shout out Staff Sergeant Jeremy Owen. I think gunny. I'm not sure what he got out of.
Yeah, I think he was a gunny when he got out, I believe. And I mean, he called me little brother throughout the whole deployment. You know what I mean? Like, because I was like on his hit for mostly that beginning, you know, time, first few weeks at least. And yeah, I remember being on the back of that bird, man, and you know, that IED threat that they were briefing us on, and I'm like, I know they're not going to land, you know. And I can just remember like how pitch black it was out there, like how pitch black everything was, you know. And you can, and I just remember when we got down, I feel like we may have jumped out a couple of feet, and it was just like plop, because I had to go to the far side of the half moon that we were making, you know, getting off the bird. So I remember everybody just started getting stuck in the mud because your packs were full of ammo, and like those first strike meals, that was it. You know, you didn't have any warming layers or anything. Like you had what you had. You had what you had on. And yeah, I remember, you know, we peeled off there, and it was a slow go. It was not perfect at all. You know, from what I remember. I mean, it was not
textbook.
I was like, if we start getting shot at right now, I ain't even been shot at yet, but if we start getting shot at right now, from what I've been told, we're screwed.
Some bad shape.
And it was like, you know, yeah, so we were, you know, way down. I remember I think my pack was full of mortar rounds, you know, and I forget how many we had to carry, but, you know, we split among all of us.
Many of them.
Yeah, we didn't have those, even you guys had to carry some, I believe.
Yeah, we had fibers on our packs too. You know, well, I mean, that's what it is to be a grunt because of how heavy your guys' gear is and how bulky it is. You know, you guys will load out everything you can, and then it gets spread load to the 11s that are rolling with you. And everybody was rolling heavy. You know, I want to say that everybody's packs were averaging between like 75 and 100 pounds, depending on who could carry what. But grenades, claymores, mortar fibers, small rockets. Yeah, man, everybody was weird.
Everything. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know, you know, I can remember just, getting stuck. I didn't get terribly stuck, but stuck enough. And there were some guys that couldn't get up once they fell, like, because their packs were so heavy. You're in, almost knee deep mud. And yeah, I can remember how cold it was and everything. Yeah, because it was balls cold. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And then after that, I remember moving to that first compound under the cover of darkness. But also, if I'm right in thinking, I can remember like an A&A squad or platoon getting lost, and we had like air overhead, and they were saying there might be an enemy, closing in on us.
That's right.
You remember that?
That's right. That happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, and they like got dropped off and wandered off somewhere. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. So that was Woundy. If you remember Woundy Goal, I gave him a Firefly before they loaded their birds, and he was supposed to activate his IR Firefly as soon as he got on his bird at Leatherneck. Well, he didn't activate it until they were like a couple 100 meters out from us, stuck in the mud.
Okay.
And that AC-130 called down and said, hey, you got an enemy element moving on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we brought Cobras in. I don't know if you remember that, but we Methlier brought Cobras in, and we were about to take care of that issue. And then Woundy flipped his switch, and he started blinking.
Yeah.
And so those choppers...
Dude, less than ideal. I mean, something that big though, stuff's gonna happen.
Oh my gosh, man, that was so close to being international incident. Minute 4.
Yeah.
Shut them down.
Yeah. But
yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember moving to that first compound.
Foothold compound, yeah.
Yeah, and we stayed there for quite some time. I think
all day.
Yeah, until daylight. Right? And then
all day. We moved over to Shinnywall the next, like, as the sun went down. Remember, we shot those APOBs off, so we were at the Foothold building from like probably 3:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning until like sundown.
Yeah, till sundown. And I can remember that's when we first started taking fire.
No, sun up we started taking fire.
Sun up, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right there, right then and there.
Yep.
Because I don't know if it was your element or what, but somebody split off and...
No, that was Hind and 2 Bravo. They split off and went up kind of like up to the left. And my guys were in a gunfight straight to the north, so straight out the back, those guys that were deep. And I think you and Jeremy Owens were running guns for me because I was calling mortars back there, right?
Yeah, yep, that's right, yep. Because I climbed up on that roof in that building to see if I could spot where they were, because I think there was some sort of miscommunication going on at first.
Yeah. Well, it was me. When the first round impacted, my dumbass was in my scope.
Oh, okay.
Where I'm not supposed to be, and I missed the adjustment.
Okay.
And so they were like, that was the miscommunication. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're, don't be like me. When you're spotting a mortar round coming down, don't be in your glass. It's for real. You'll lose it. So. But yeah. Then I think, so were you at the Foothold where the 60 tubes then?
Yeah. Yep,
During all of that?
Yep.
Yeah, so that was Hind and 2 Bravo then that were over, I guess that would have been like northwest.
Okay.
Building with it had like a yellow gate on the building.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and then I can remember, I guess, I don't know, somehow we ended up consolidating, right? Before we moved to like that first position, right?
Yeah, everybody reconsolidated at that Foothold, and then we blew. They had there was an IED on the land bridge, so we blew the APOBs over that, and then at night, and then we,
Yeah, I got a funny story about that.
Let me hear it.
Yeah, so when we were, so I remember before it blew, it was like right at dark when you guys blew those things, I believe.
Yeah.
Because I remember some chatter about maybe some enemy over there somewhere, or something was watching what was going on or something. So I can remember there wasn't too many places like this, but I remember like a glass pane being in that compound. And when you guys blew that APOB, that IED detonated or whatever, that thing shattered the glass in that building.
Yeah. You told me about this offline. We talked about it a little bit. I never knew about that.
Yeah, I was
shattered the whole glass in the building. Well, it was 2 APOBs simultaneously.
Yeah.
And then I think they simp-deaded 1 or 2 IEDs on that bridge. I can't be certain of how many were there, but at least 1.
Yeah,
And it
was
shattered all the glass in there.
yeah, it shattered the glass. I was like, holy shit, like because we're tucked behind the wall waiting to come out.
Yeah.
And then I remember I don't remember exactly the movement of order for that whole thing when we were going. I just remember being in a Ranger file, and I was towards the rear. And I remember
snaking along with some kin lights.
Yeah, the chem lights. Yeah, so it was like, being towards the rear, it started getting past like which way to go around the chem light. So at this point, I think every step I'm taking, we're going to step on an IED, and then it ends up, coming back from the guy in front of you, or you can hear like, hey, to the left or to the right, and they're like, to the left, or maybe to the right. Like it's like, oh my goodness.
Roger,
like,
50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was an adventure, man. I mean, I don't remember how far that movement was, but
it was a couple hundred meters.
Yeah, it was like
a few hundred meters anyway.
Yeah, it was like puckered the whole time because we didn't know towards the rear which side. I mean, maybe it was just a guy in front of me, the way it was communicated.
It's so funny to hear that because I was dropping them. And it's a great after action to bring that up because I was dropping the lights. I had Wetzel at point and I was basically right on his shoulder dropping lights. So thinking about back on it now, I never passed what side to walk on any lights, but to be sure, I was dropping them with my left hand because my right's got my gun. So probably you should have been on the right the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know. I don't even know who started passing word. I don't know.
I mean, it was a whole platoon, So
yeah, a platoon reinforced. Yeah, dude. A lot of people. Yeah, it was probably like, gosh, I don't want to say and be wrong, but I want to say it was 300 at least to snake over to Shinny Wall through that opening and then link up with them. Maybe it was less. Maybe it was more. Yeah, that was a nerve-wracking walk for sure. And do you remember the pillars being out there? Just like mud pillars in the middle of nowhere? In the darkness?
No, not really.
Well, we're like easing through there, and I'm dropping chem sticks, and then Wetzel freezes, and I see like this figure a few feet away to the left, and I'm like, oh my god! And we hit it with the white light, and it was just like a mud pillar. Like my knees go a little wobbly. I'm like, you were scared. No, you were scared. Yeah. And then was it you? When we got over to Shinny Wall that night, was it you that sank the base plates?
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God. Like, we got the order to sink the base plates because we're going to be there for a while. And I think at that time, most guys that were able to had fallen asleep.
Yep, that's right. My whole squad was sleeping right there.
Yeah, and it was like, I told Jeremy, I was like, man, these guys are going to shit themselves. Like, because it's a loom, like charged.
Well, you came and told me. You were like, hey, we have to sink these base plates just to let you guys know if you want. And I was like, all right. But they were already asleep, and I was like, man, I don't know when they're going to be able to sleep again. It was like, we could get attacked right now. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, no, they'll be good. And I'm cleaning my weapon. Like, they're all asleep. I'm cleaning my weapon. Whoo.
Them things went off, dude. And everybody jumped the hell up, dude. I was like, man, like, you feel bad, but everybody's already such on edge from the day,
Yeah.
You're trying to get sleep when you can because it's so damn cold, and we had nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I remember that. Yeah, that was.
Those guys come up clutching their chest with one hand and their rifle with the other hand. I'm like, whoa, my bad. This is on me. This is not their fault. They told me. I didn't tell you.
Yeah, man. And if I can remember, those walls were pretty low in that place.
They were.
Yeah, because I remember.
Well, in some of the places, yeah. In the place we were in, it was like interconnected, like half highs.
Yeah. So, because I can remember McCarver running around, like, hunched over the whole time everywhere, and he would run everywhere he went. It's like, hey, you need to have your Kevlar on,
Yeah.
And I remember there was like a little building and then the wall, and I think we were sleeping right there, right by the mortars.
Yeah.
Right where we were. Yeah, man.
Yeah, that was wild. It's funny that every time I talk to guys from my squad, when we're talking about stuff like this or at the little reunions, we've had a reunion one time, that always comes up. Hey, you remember when them 60 sank that base plate? I'm like, yes, I do. Vividly. Yeah, that's always one of them.
Yeah, and then I can remember, I mean, it was so cold. You had Marines spooning with each other, You know what I mean? Like that you would never see in your life. Like I slept with Jeremy underneath a space blanket. That's all we had was a space blanket and a poncho.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
like it was like it was real, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
guys were freezing, and God forbid if you got soaking wet.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like
And everybody was from fighting. It was like
yeah,
you're fighting all
yeah,
day and you're hot and you're sweaty, and then the fighting's over and you don't have a change of clothes, and now the wind's hitting you, and it was cold. It was in the 40s, I would say, maybe lower 40. I don't want to say low 40s, but probably mid 40s,
yeah,
and that sucks. I remember like it was like maybe the second or third night I was crawling into that corral. You remember that, like where that circus tent was?
yeah,
I was crawling in there because I had just gotten off watch and we had like water or food or something trying to come to us in a couple hours. And I'm like, I got to get a couple hours. And I'm crawling through there, and I mean, I'm froze, dude. I'm like, because my same reason, I was all wet from the day. And now
yeah,
that cold set in. And I was like, I got to find Grimes. He's got the most batty fat out of all of my Marines. And I'm like spoon up next to him. So as I'm like crawling through there to find Grimes, Herbie sits up in his black bag and like whips it open. I'm like, dog, I'm freezing. He's like, all right, dog, get in.
yeah.
I'm like,
Good.
yes. So I had to split I told her, I ran into his cousin golfing today and told him that story,
Yeah,
which is cool, but and not that really that cool. But it
yeah,
happened.
yeah,
It was
exactly.
cold.
No, I mean, dude,
Can
that's
confirm.
that's dude. You know. Yeah. So, and then I don't know how many days we were there for, whatever. I can remember that resupply in the middle of the night. That was a shit show where all the water exploded. You know, I remember that. I can remember getting shot at through that build. You know, at that building. I think you guys may have been out at that time.
Maybe I don't remember that.
And at the time, it was I can't remember what squad was there or whatever, but that at that point, that was the closest time I came to getting shot because Stas Arnaud was next to me, and he got that round, the way it impacted the top of that wall, he dove down, and I thought he was hit. And
Mm.
I was like, Stas, are you okay? And he was like, yeah. He was like, that one was just close. I was like, yeah, it was.
Was that Jeremy?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's probably at
And
the Alamo in the beginning, right where they dropped the
yeah,
water.
yeah, yep,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then First Sergeant was there too, and he was like, I can't have you up there. That's what he said to him. And then I still remember this. It's funny. It's like when he did that, I made like the Forrest Gump, impression, like something bit me. Thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. He just told me to go fuck myself, And,
He didn't find it as comical as you did.
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. Because he used to have his you know, like whatever, and he'd be like, "You want some?" His snuff, his that we pack and all that. You want some?
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it was. Yeah,
That's
that
funny.
comedy in the moment that you can have with people,
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
so serious. I don't even know how you develop it that fast, or
Oh, you have to.
how it comes. You got to have a sense of humor,
Yeah,
You
you
got,
got to have thick skin, a sense of humor, and really, I mean, I think we're all the same, all of us, especially from that time. Everybody, you got to have a dark sense of humor because I don't know how else you get through some of it.
yeah,
Because most of it just sucks. Like,
yeah.
if you can't laugh at it, or if you can't try to make some light of the situation, then it can eat you up.
And then, not sure what day it was, but I can remember when you guys were doing that thing out towards the cemetery for the original Hanson base.
Mm-hmm.
Remember we ran some fire missions for you guys up that way, you know, along with the other stuff that came along with it, hearing stuff come over the radio and everything like that. And,
Yeah.
I tried to take a tube out and go with you guys at that time.
You
But
mean on the 21st?
yeah, mm-hmm.
It would
But
have been good.
Yeah, we got told we had to stay with that mortar at that compound, just in case we needed the FDC or whatever to roll.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things. It's always hindsight, but it is what it is,
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. The bitch of it is that we had Cobras over top that day, and because we didn't have a certified JTAC on the ground with us, they wouldn't do a Type 2 control. or Type 1, whatever it's called. So they would not fire for us. And I mean, Makowitz landed a yellow 40 Mike smoke marker literally on one of the machine gun bunkers that was spraying us. Yeah. And they said they couldn't get PID. And it's like, I have PID. Shoot that fucking rocket at that bunker. You know what I mean? And so like we got hamstringed with that. So
I know, because it and hearing that, it sucks, because with those mortars, those 60s, it was like on-scene commander could clear it. And
yeah. Well, we later did, right?
Yeah.
Later on, you rolled with us everywhere, and you were direct support.
Towards the middle half, towards the end of that deployment, I mean, I feel like I would have put our section up against any in the Marine Corps at that point.
Oh, dude.
How we were employing those things with the company.
Dude, you guys in handheld, and we'll get to the 5-day war shot, but I talk about it in speeches with Marines. I've talked about it in my book, because hands down, that is the best mortar shot I've ever seen, training or otherwise. And it wasn't an easy shot. It's not like you had a static target. So we'll get to that. But no, you guys' section was phenomenal. And, it got to a point where, I think for all of us, especially all of the straight legs, it got to a point where it's like, hey, who's in the pits today when we're out? Hey, who's manning the guns today when we're out? Hey, who's manning the Mark 19 today when we're out? And if you heard a couple of names, you're like, oh, fuck yeah. Because you just knew, like, nope, that section or that squad of machine guns is money. And most everybody was money. I'm not saying, like, we didn't have a whole lot of light chinks in Kilo.
No,
everybody was heavy hitting. So, but there were always names and personnel that I got warm and fuzzies with. Your section was my warm and fuzzy tube section for sure.
I mean, coming from the weapons platoon as an attachment, I mean, I felt the same way when we would do these briefs, and you're going to these forward patrol bases with different people. You know what I mean? You know who you are really comfortable with.
That's right.
Not necessarily so much. You know what I mean? Like,
that's right. Well, and it's going to be like that, and it doesn't mean they're weak, but it may mean that you and that squad leader get along better, or like see tactically the same way, or there's different things.
Right. Yeah,
for sure. But
so I mean, but that's always going to be there.
For sure. Yeah, that's innate. It's going to happen. Especially when you got, it's harder with Kilo because everybody was pretty damn good, like, honestly. Yeah. But it's definitely going to happen if you have a weak section and a strong section.
Right.
And any weapon, any weapon that there is. You got a guy with a weak section. It's like, I don't know if I want them supporting me.
Right.
Don't be a weak section.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's just get to it. So we did a lot of banging, had a lot of practice, fired a lot of rounds, and then we get kind of closer to the end of the deployment, and we go on this 5-day war. And this 5-day war was basically just 5 days of us going up and getting in their backyard, blowing their supply route bridges up, and we were doing this in the anticipation of our relief landing in zone.
Right. Yeah.
Which was awesome. So that kind of sets it up. But give me your rundown of that war, of that 5 days.
Yeah, I knew we were getting close to going home, so it was like, one of those things. But I also knew, it was something that was necessary for those guys, and for our success as we RTB. So I could shoot. Yeah, I remember going up there. Initially, I think we had a tube in handheld, I believe, and then we sunk one. From what I believe, and there was a few of us guys up there. I can't remember exactly who was there.
I think you rolled with JT squad.
Okay.
And 2 Bravo took. Yeah, and you guys took the patrol base, and then my squad kind of skirted you guys, and then we combined, and then kind of kicked out of that patrol base for a few days, right? Yeah,
running different stuff. Yep, that's exactly right. And and working with 2 Bravo, I mean, he was phenomenal to work for. I mean, going back, he was pissed when I told him I was taking the scout sniper selection. Like, he was. Like,
I bet.
He was pissed.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So.
You know him. Yeah. Shout out Big Whiskey. He's one of the best out there, especially with the straight leg 0369 that I know. So he can get after it for sure.
Yeah, and working with you guys was always great with the platoon, but at that place, man, it was nonstop during that time, those 5 days. I mean, not that it wasn't kinetic the whole time, but it slowed down a little, but it was extremely kinetic up there.
Yeah, up there was bad. Well, you got to remember what happened. Like, we operated for several months and we never pushed our northern boundary because it was the southern boundary for the Brits that were to the north of us. And there was always deconfliction. So there was that bubble of like 300 or 400 meters, and they figured out right where that bubble was. Yeah. And then in that 5-day war, I think we just pushed all the way up into that, whatever it was, Charlie Echo or Charlie Mike, whatever it was, in that section. And then we planted, and then we pushed into that, right onto the edges of that bubble where we hadn't really been pressing them for the last 4 months. And I think they just kind of like, were like, oh, fuck, they're on us,
Yeah. And I mean, I can remember we shot a lot of rounds up there. I know that for you guys. I do know that for a fact. I mean, I don't know what day it was. It was some gunfight where a guy got wheelbarrowed into our compound or right next to it or whatever. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember what that was about. Like,
he was a spotter. He was a commander, and he was spotting us. And I think it was Knuckles. Shout out Kevin. Kevin Knuckles called me up and said he was going to take a shot. And I was like waiting forever for the shot, and finally the shot rings out. I'm like, Knuckles, what's taking so long? I mean, he's static. He's like, well, I hadn't shot anybody in the sitting position yet, Sergeant. So he got in like crisscross applesauce, got in a good sitting position and laced this dude up. And then the dude had the gumption. He didn't get pulled up in a wheelbarrow. He made it. He walked up and got triaged by Doc H.
Yeah, because I remember that being a big deal. Like, this guy was coming.
Yeah, because we had him on ICOM chatter.
What the hell are you doing? Why are you coming here type of thing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We had him on ICOM chatter, so we knew he was a commander. Because then after he got shot, they were like, oh, the commander just got shot. Okay. Right? Yeah. And then he walked up. He came up he got triaged to Lashkar-Gard. I don't know if he made it or not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I do remember that. So the shot that we're talking about, this amazing shot, to set the stage, I had been out. We had been in a gunfight all day. We came back after working for a while, I think several hours. And then it was like I want to say JT squad was going to push out like the evening patrol.
Yeah.
So they push out, probably like 2, 3, 4 o'clock, somewhere like that. And when they get up there, they get into it. And I want to say they're in a gunfight, but they're out well off to the east when we see the squirter from their gunfight kind of squirting out, right? You remember this?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure you do. Of course you do. Well, this squirter has like I don't remember if he had a mortar tube on his moped or if he had like a medium machine gun. I know it was a bigger gun. Just can't remember. You remember what he had?
I think it was a gun.
Yeah, I think it was a gun too. I think it was like a RPK style weapon.
Yeah.
And here he is squirting, and all I remember is Herbie was like your aiming stake.
Yeah.
You calculated like flight time. Somebody was like holding up, here's where we need it to hit, and here's how fast he's coming.
It was like,
yeah, walk me through that, dude.
Yeah, it's because it was just, it's just one of those things. I mean, we got good at that though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the moving target thing. I mean, there's a lot of luck in that. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I'm not saying there's not some luck, but you got to get it in the right ball. You got to get it in the right ballpark for that luck to.
Just one of those things. Like, we got good at it. It's like, hey, I mean, even before that, it's like, hey, you see those trees right there? Hey, 2 fingers over from these trees. Hey, I'm gonna stand right here along the wall. Use me as a stake. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like some unconventional ways we were using that system.
Shit worked.
Yeah, and it was like the same thing there with Herbie. You know what I mean? And it's just like, hey, do this and, fire, Yeah,
that's what it was. So Herbie runs up to like the courtyard wall, and he's like, right here. So you're using him as an aiming stake because we know that's where this guy's coming to. Yep. And you're like, 3 minutes. Boom.
Yeah.
This guy disappeared.
We had it like on near surface or something like that. We used a lot of that there with those guys, especially like in the
air blasting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because of the tree lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was that and the HIMARS shot on the 2 guys on Route Taunt.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I saw
Were
that
the
on
most direct hits I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that on a G-Boss.
Me
I
too.
remember.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was pretty wild.
That was wild. It's like they heard the rocket come off of the UAV,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that was way too
like,
late.
They almost like ran into each other. And, you know,
They did. That's sick. We shouldn't be laughing about it, but it happened,
yeah, yeah,
and it's funny.
yeah.
Okay, so what other leadership challenges did you face in Marjah? What are some of the leadership challenges?
I would say, I mean, not necessarily from the guys at that point, from the section or anything. Like we became very tight, you know. I would say a leadership challenge for me there was also talking to some of these platoon sergeants, like, you know, say, because we shared posts too,
Yeah.
you know, and then we had the mortar tube as well, you know, if we needed it sunk there at Riley. I can remember, you know, having to, you know, we'd always have to send a squad with the OPs, you know, when we were manning them. And then we would also have to contribute to post. But then, you know, the same dynamic you guys had. Then you guys had guys going out on patrol, but then also to these forward patrol bases. Well, we could get spread, you know, we would get spread pretty thin, you know, and I can remember getting into it with one particular platoon sergeant about it. And I'm a corporal at the time, you know, first deployment, everything. Yeah, and he pretty much laid it on me pretty good out there because I told him that night our guys weren't standing posts. Like I told him that, you know, and naturally, you know,
he won't
getting
want to hear that.
NCO, you know what I mean? Getting out as a staff NCO myself, I wouldn't respect some boot corporal telling me,
Yeah.
hey, you know, my guys aren't standing posts tonight. You know?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thanks. Excuse me. Man. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's did
So-
you guys stand post?
No, they didn't.
Outstanding.
Owen took care of it.
Look, man, there's some things that happened over there that we were spread really thin, especially in the early days, but I feel like as a whole, I feel like they did a good job of not overtaxing us after the first 30 days.
Yeah.
Or 40 days.
Right.
When we were up at the CAG and we had to like split into different, you know, split our squads into two different sections and then run with weapons, plus ups and A&As, man, that was overtaxing.
Yeah.
But we managed it and we did, you know, we figured it out.
Yeah.
But really after that, man, we in my opinion, I think there was a lot to do. There was a lot to do, but I don't think they overtaxed it too bad.
No, I think like I mean that was just one thing, you know. I mean
No. I know there's one thing. There's always the little
like,
things. I'm just glad that they weren't the regular. You know, I'm glad that wasn't the rule.
Yeah.
That was more of the exception.
And again, it goes back. I mean, our leaders did a phenomenal job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, small unit all the way up. You know,
For sure.
I got nothing but good things to say about people when I talk about 3-6 and the unit I was with, and I mean, you couldn't be more proud. You know.
No, yeah, 100%.
What we did. So,
100%. Now, talk to me about this because I come back. When I come back, I go over to ITB then, and didn't you stay?
Yeah, I stayed
for Marjah 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you go as Marjah 2 as a 41 or as a sniper?
As a sniper.
Okay. Talk to me about that evolution.
So shortly after we got back, shortly after I got back, when did you leave? Did you leave shortly after that deployment?
Yeah. So when we got back, it was a couple of months and I went to infantry squad leaders course.
Okay.
Because I hadn't been and I needed to check that box for my career. And then I came back from Ssgt and was only there like 3 weeks or 4 weeks and checked into combat instructor school. So once we got home, I just wasn't around much at all.
Yeah. So shortly after, I can't remember how long, it wasn't too long after, like post-deployment leave and all that stuff. I ran the scout sniper selection with the battalion, you know, got selected, and then, you know, all of us were doing our pig thing around battalion for a while. And then March of 2011, I went to school up in Quantico.
Okay.
Graduated school, all that, came back, and now we're getting close to deployment. I think we graduated like end of May, something like that, you know.
Oh, so you're coming out of that just fresh,
Yeah,
trained, and I'm
yeah,
sure in shape as hell.
yeah. I mean, pretty much that's the way. And I mean, you know, we had a very good reputation as a platoon for the battalion. With you had Keller there, Smith, uh, Hunt. We had great leadership in the platoon as well. And then when I came back, I got put in Smith's team, Tyler Smith. Um, and
Oh, okay. I know
phenomenal,
you're talking about.
yeah, phenomenal team leader. I got nothing but good things to say about that guy. He's a friggin' warrior. Um,
Still trying to get. I'm trying to record him. He's his work
yeah,
schedule out on the West Coast doesn't align well with recording times, but we're gonna get him.
yeah,
He's
dude.
phenomenal, dude.
Yeah, he is, man. I got nothing but good things to say about that guy. Yeah, so I got put on his team, but the thing is, I got back from my wife comes to pick me up, I think, because we only had one vehicle at the time. We had my pickup truck. So I think she came to pick me up from base, and I was like, I got back and found out I was leaving 3 days later after being in Quantico.
Wait, after sniper school,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't know the deployment was coming up?
That we knew it was coming up, but we didn't know the dates. You know what I'm
Oh
saying? Like
man.
everybody had different time slots per company.
Yeah, check.
So I knew it was coming up, but you're kind of out of the loop up at school. You know what I mean? Like, and she saw me a few times throughout school, like on the weekends and stuff like that, because it was in. She went back to Jersey when I deployed and stuff, so to stay with family.
Check.
Whatever. But we got moved in or whatever. However it went, but I can remember her bawling her eyes out because I was like, I gotta leave in like 3 days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and she got pulled over and everything on the way home. Uh,
Oh no.
yeah, she was just driving erratically. I can't, whatever, you know. And I felt terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I saw her, and I'm about to go do this thing all over again.
Yeah, and she went through the first one with you, so she could only
Yeah,
assume that it would be.
yeah,
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 man.
just as bad. I mean,
Yeah.
what can you
Now,
say?
did you know you were going back to Marjah from your workup? Did you already
Yeah, we
know?
knew we knew we were going to the area. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And
So,
and what did you say? So you're in sniper platoon.
mhm.
Yeah, so that's a different dynamic. So you don't find out who you're going to be in support with until you get a little closer downrange.
But they kind of knew it throughout the workup.
Okay, okay,
I was going to be part of India Company.
okay.
And so Smith was a team leader, and then I became his ATL once I graduated school. And
One try,
yeah,
right? You went to sniper school one time? Yeah.
yeah, first time, yep.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So we went there. Yeah. So going back a little bit. So after that happened, when they told me I had 3 days before I had to go, I called and somehow I was able to work out a deal to where I left with Lima Company, and I got like a week and a half or something like that.
Because
They
you're just
worked.
coming out of school,
Yeah,
they were working with you to be able to see some family.
yeah, exactly. Because I really didn't get a pre-deployment.
Yeah, check.
Yeah. So yeah, they worked all that out, and I ended up flying over there with them. So I had to do the basic, in package, in country training with them, and then they finally kicked me off to India Company.
Over
Like
to India.
yeah, 2 weeks later, or whatever
Now,
it was.
now, did you work in any of the same spots that we were in?
Um, yeah, actually, well, almost.
Almost.
So we got bounced around a lot. So we were in what was it? We were in Treknow for a little bit. They 3-9 ended up making this PB. I think it was 3-9 or 2-6, whoever, or yeah, 3-9. That's who we ripped with. Detroit, and it was one of those routes over there. I forget, like near Treknow and all that
Yeah.
over there. And then we weren't really in Marjah proper. Uh,
Outskirts mainly, or
yeah, like outskirts mainly.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and we were along that one route there. I forget what the route was. A lot like doing ops with them. Doing our own thing. Smith did a very good job at being proactive. The CO we had then, he was phenomenal with snipers. He loved working with snipers and utilized us to
That's good.
do what we do. You know, and then like towards the middle or towards the end of deployment, our team got attached to 1-6 Charlie in KES.
Okay.
So that happened because 1-6, two of their companies got put up in what was that bad place up there in the ID
Sistani?
Sistani? Nah, that
Maybe.
don't sound
The Peninsula.
Uh,
I wasn't on 2, so I don't know.
Try to remember what that place is. I'll think about it as soon as we're off here. But it was further north a little bit.
Okay.
They were taking a lot of casualties up there, so they got 2 companies that were put up there, and we got basically bastardized with 1-6 Charlie.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we were actually operating with one of their platoons for a little while up there, right along the river.
Did you get good work with them though?
Yeah, we got pretty good work with them. I mean, wasn't too. You just know how it is. You're getting attached to another battalion, another company. You don't
Yeah,
know
I get that.
They don't know you. They
Yeah.
don't know how they want to employ you. It's just a good thing that Smith did a great job at it. And I mean,
Being proactive, you mean, and staying in the ears, I'm sure, of what his capabilities were to the CO.
and I mean, it was different up there because it was very green.
Yeah.
Your engagements were 200, 300 yards. Like there was a lot of green. I mean, they even gave us the green frogs when we were up there.
Check.
Yeah, because I mean, that's just the way it was. And actually, we rolled with Anglico guys rolled with us a lot up there. So we had that air asset. Yeah, and then we finished up there. They ended up attaching a 3rd platoon from India Company up there, and we had a patrol base, and we stayed with them for like the remainder of the deployment.
It's like back to daddy, huh?
Yeah.
Falling back under them. That's always nice.
Yeah, and it was cool because we had a really good relationship with that platoon and that platoon commander and platoon sergeant.
Who was it?
The platoon commander was Zigarelli.
Okay.
I can't remember the platoon sergeant's name that much.
Gotcha. Hell yeah. Well, that's good. That's a lot closer of engagements. Those are chip shots for you guys, eh?
Yeah, it is, but it wasn't as kinetic as it was when we were there.
More few and far between.
Yeah, a lot less. You had more. It was a lot less stuff.
You killed all the stupid ones with your tubes the year prior.
Yeah. I mean,
you should have left some of them for yourself with the long gun.
IEDs here and there, you know what I mean? Some
mainly IEDs, you think?
I think mainly IEDs. Got shot at a few.
Who? One of the I was told, I can't remember who told me. It was one of the other companies though that was more kinetic on 2 than the other 2 companies, right?
I don't know which
or was
one
it evenly?
I don't know which one, to be honest with you. Like which
know.
one more kinetic. I mean, because we ended up getting Lima Company's their sniper team back to us eventually, and we combined and made one big team, so we could just mutually support each other outside.
Probably not them then, huh?
Yeah, so it could have been Kilo, but I don't know. But Kilo kind of bordered us, because we did a couple combined ops with them, And
check. So few and far between, but you got good work and you got bounced around a little bit. That kind of sucks, but yeah, Tyler being who Tyler is, looking out for you and taking care of business, that's dope. So shout out there for sure. And what's your highlights from that deployment?
I mean, I guess just the experience of doing all that. I mean, it's just totally different operational, mindset.
You like it better?
I mean,
like, it's an honest question. You go from doing a long range thing like dropping mortars and rolling with the guys to supporting them in a different way. Which one did you like more?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I like the second one a little better, but maybe that's because I came there with that capability of being able to, call for fire and stuff like that, which made that part of my job a lot easier.
A little more seasoned, a little more learned.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean,
well, and you come at that deployment from a completely different mind space too, because you're just getting out of school over here. Now you're school trained. You're thinking strategic. You're thinking recon. You're thinking, call for fire, and you're going into that deployment, like you said, from a completely different mindset than you were coming into this one. Well, so it's different work.
It is, and then when you get briefed your ROEs, and they're totally different too. Not totally different, but a lot less.
Wasn't an open city no more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like, you kind of get a little disappointed, but then there's a reason why things are the way they are. You know what I mean? To where they get a little more strict because you come there with this capability, and you're like, darn it.
Yeah, yeah. Now was Tyler was already in stay when we did.
Yeah, he did the first deployment
when we did one. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Yeah, he had a spicy one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so when we come back off of that deployment, what's it look like for you?
Oh, well, I re-enlisted on that deployment in country. I wasn't totally sure what we were doing as 3-6, but I did the Op 4. And then shortly after we got back, I found it out we were going to Japan, so I had a bad attitude about that, the wrong attitude probably, you know. And then
Well, you wanted to go back to combat?
oh yeah. Now it was going to be my show. I was a chief scout at the time, you know. I had my own team, you know. Now it was going to be my show for the most part, you know.
Yeah, and you don't want to go over and do a UDP or float over to. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and I had a bad attitude about the thing, but before deployment and everything, I got sick of going to schools. I mean, I was very fortunate. I went to Mountain, then I went to infantry small unit leaders course. I went there. That was eye opening for me. As far as deployment and everything. Oh man,
talk on that.
I mean, our instructors did a phenomenal job at that thing, and you're there with all your peers, you know. You're all sergeants. Most guys are seasoned veterans. And then I can just remember doing the sand table exercises. I can remember getting absolutely destroyed by one of the gunnies there. I mean, he made me feel so small.
Now, what did you do wrong?
I think it was just like a platoon attack, and it was just like the way I employed my weapons. He
wasn't a fan.
Was not a fan. Let me tell you. Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like in front of your group of your peers, and you got
That's
this
not
guy
cool.
just
Yeah.
ripping your plan apart. You start seeing guys with their notes like adjusting,
changing shit.
yeah, and then I mean that was great as far as employment goes with all weapon systems. You know, it was kind of like. I never got to go through infantry unit leaders course, but I would say it was the first ISALT course they ever ran.
Yeah.
So it was like.
Yeah, because that's new. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like at the time, I mean, it was like a mini version of IULC, I guess I could say, you know, because we were learning how to employ different weapons. I came out of there a lot smarter.
Yeah,
with
dope.
I would say. I mean, and it helped my orders writing and everything, because then I went to team leaders course up in Quantico, and you know, I was fortunate enough to be the honor graduate up there for that, you know, and that helped me.
Sure.
I mean, that's all it did, you know. So.
Sure. Yeah. I think they've come a long way, and then they're continuing still to restructure, you know, like that entry level training and making it better and better. So I think it's even probably better than what we were going through. I don't think probably. I'd say absolutely better. But that's dope, and because that's a whole ass confidence boost right there when you can school after school after school, and you're just honing and refining.
Yeah. So I went to those 3 schools before we deployed on the UDP. I mean, you know, and
you were tight on that then, huh?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you're doing your thing, and then we went out to right after that deployment, we went out to Yuma, and we did a package out there, which was awesome.
The sniper package?
No, well, yeah, we did one while we were there, but we did a battalion.
Oh, okay.
Thing out there. So instead of like going to Mojave Viper or 29 Palms,
yeah,
and we did like this. They did like this huge air package out there. I mean, it was phenomenal training. I mean, where we stayed was like staying like you're developing a PB or or a cop or something like that, or a fob.
Sure.
Sleeping under the stars, and I mean, like we got to work with all these air assets. And
you get to drop live ordnance out there.
We didn't get to control the ordnance, but we got to see ordnance get dropped because we did this op out there. It was friggin' cool. So we were in the Chocolate Mountains out there. We get air inserted. I forget. I don't know if it was Black Hawks or Hueys, whatever we had out there. We get air inserted, and our job is to like use HF comms to report back on this. Like they build like this mock village out there. Like a mock town. Okay. So, and we have to set up a hide in this mountain and do observations of it. So, we're like a click out of it. We're doing observation, trying to send it back over HF, like data and everything like that. But in the meantime, when we get inserted and during our infill, they have like trackers out there trying to track us.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, man. It was pretty cool. And then they had like, you could see the like doing dog fights and everything out there, like in the valley, like over the mountains. Like these guys were, getting their training in as well. It was really cool.
Oh, you mean the pilots?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It was cool, man. And then at the end of the exercise, they blew up the town. Um, yeah,
Like
yeah,
napalm style bombs?
yeah. Like just blew it up, dude. Like just rockets and everything.
Oh, they
Just
just went ham on it.
yeah, it was cool. And then we did our exfil, and met up with the major, like some air major and everything like that. And he brought us back. But that was one of the cooler training missions that I've actually done. Um,
That's dope, dude.
yeah, so we did that out there, and then we went out to Camp Billy Macon. It's like I think it's right on. I forget exactly what state it's in, but it's
Mm.
like a small base where they do some training, like Navy SOCOM does. They do some training out there. It's like just a desert with ranges, dude. It's like,
Perfect for training.
oh yeah, dude. I think like if you're a Marine and you want to get good at training, I think I never spent a whole lot of time out there, but if you go out west, dude, that is where you want to go to get good at your job. I mean,
100%. I always said that about 29 Palms. There's
dude,
little by way of distraction and all the capability in the world for you to get good.
yeah,
I
I
never
know.
got
Like
out there either.
yeah, I mean, it sucks like to live out there. Maybe I don't know. Some guys might enjoy it, but I mean, if you want to become if you're hard on training, I believe that's where you want to be.
That's where you want to be. And I think they can even like lock ranges and such on as sergeants out there. Like as a squad leader, I think you can lock on 410 Alpha, or at least you used to could be able to. Could you
That'd be
imagine? Like
yeah,
anytime you
dude.
wanted, you just run your squad through that?
Like thinking back now, I mean, because when I got out, I actually had orders there to 3-7.
Okay.
Uh, I got out from those orders, you know. Um, yeah, so we did that training there at Camp Billy Macon, all ranges, just doing a lot of range shooting and everything, and then we came home, and then we went on to UDP.
Any highlights from the UDP?
The
Did
UDP,
you do any jungle training?
oh yeah, yeah, we
Talk
did the
about that a
jungle
bit.
training, the jungle package. That was pretty cool. It was definitely unique. Um, just between your route selection, I guess, because like I mean, during that time it was raining a lot, and then they had the peanut butter mud hills and everything. So you got to do a lot of rigging with ropes. So you got to have
Check.
guys that are good at that, to pull yourself up alongside of stuff, and everything takes a little bit longer for movement. Um, and it's just, I mean, if you had to fight that war, dude, like those guys did, in
Yeah,
World War II.
I've only talked to people about the jungle training, but I'm gonna tell you right now, different,
Dude,
man, different.
like just seeing that place, I mean, it's Okinawa, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, just that fighting in
Rough,
that team, I was like, those Marines were hard, dude. Like, there ain't no,
hotter than woodpecker lips, baby.
yeah, yeah, there ain't no getting past that. I mean, those guys, I give it all those guys deserve all the credit that, in the world. So,
100%, dude. I feel the same way. Like that fight, and we're obviously gonna have a bit of a bias because we had a different war, and we're biased
right.
towards our war. But man, the jungle, especially you run triple canopy, and then you talk about like Iwo Jima going up and
Yeah,
fighting in those conditions. I don't think you can watch the movies, and I don't think people will understand like the rigor against your body and the grit that you need, even if you're in top tier shape to do some of that stuff. So
yeah,
those dudes are hand down badasses.
yeah, yeah, it was, yeah. So we did that. I had a bad attitude there. Um,
What? Just because it wasn't combat,
yeah, I
still
would say,
carried over into the
I,
deployment a bit.
right. Yeah, I think my maturation wasn't all the way there as far as like, having a good attitude about everything. I mean, we still trained hard. We still did all that stuff. I took advantage of those things. Our platoon
Sure.
did with the opportunity. But I mean, for myself personally, I feel like I could have got a lot more out of it, like just with things going on out in town and stuff. I stayed to the barracks. I didn't do much. You know what I mean? Like I went to sergeant's course out there. I experienced failure out there. I failed urban sniper out there. Um,
Talk about that a little bit.
yeah, so I mean, my partner and I, we shot really good the whole way through, and then the last qual, it's like I don't know what you would call it. It's like a chaos qual. You know, it's almost like a long PRS stage. You know what I mean? Like, a long PRS stage, pretty much. Using a lot of max point blank, unknown distance stuff. And it's on time. Yeah, and you get two chances. Like your first time you fail, your second time you fail. Both times I failed one shot.
And that's it, pass or fail, and you
That's
get
it,
two
fail.
attempts.
You go home. And then
That's tough, man.
yeah.
How
yeah,
far
man.
into the school were you when you filled
I
out?
mean, it's like the last week.
Ah,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
just a missed shot or missed time.
I mean, no, they were missed shots.
Okay.
I mean, it's on me. It was on me. No one else. If other guys can, or if the course is designed for people to pass, of course it's designed to be difficult, to evaluate your skill level. But it wasn't my day. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It wasn't my day either when I went back over to battalion and Gunner chewed my ass.
Gunner
know?
who?
I forget. Was it McGuire? I can't
Maybe.
remember.
I
Might have
don't
been
know.
McGuire. Yeah, he chewed our ass, and and then I mean, it was what it was. You just had to suck it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sucks.
Learn
Nothing you
experience,
can
dude.
do about it except
Yeah,
for do it
it's a
better
learning
next time.
experience, dude. And then fortunately from the schoolhouse, I was able to go back again here at second EOTG, and I knocked it out of the park. So,
Fuck yeah.
yeah. So it was a big
Failure
one.
is where growth is found.
Yeah, I mean, that one hit hard, dude.
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, nobody likes failing. Failing
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, but it's necessary.
You're right.
It is
Yeah, it is.
necessary.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So what's next after that?
So we get back from the UDP, and now I'm coming up on my time to where I can leave. I'm starting to look at orders and stuff like that, and I really wanted to go to the schoolhouse to teach. Like my heart was set on it. And at the time, it wasn't a combat instructor billet. You go there for 2 years, you teach, and then you back to the fleet. You stay pretty fresh.
Check.
So I ended up getting T8E orders for like a month there because Master Sergeant Hunt, he hooked it up, because he used to be our platoon sergeant at 3-6. He knew me, knew my reputation, and then also Keller was there at the time, Smith was there at the time, and you had to turn in a resume and all that stuff, and so I got over there right before Christmas time frame, I think it was, and I'm all eager and everything, and they were off deck, they didn't have a class on. So I kind of had to wait after the first of the year and start teaching. And then, from there.
Now, in that off time coming in, you're like murder boarding, I assume, and going over it's kind of the same way you would do it as a regular instructor, so that you're up on the classes you're teaching, or were you already good to go?
Yeah, you get up to it. I definitely wasn't good to go as far as my way to communicate it to the student. Like, I can remember murder boarding, and I was getting ready to start the field skills package, which I ended up taking over my time there, as the primary on field skills. And I remember the first time I taught the PowerPoint for stalking, it lasted 15 minutes.
How long is it supposed to last?
At least an hour and a half.
Like, yeah, we're a bit quick coming in there.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's funny because I got all the other instructors out there in front of me critiquing me and everything, and they're just like, dude, you need to relax and slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of take you under their wing. They show you how to prepare with the your master lesson files.
Oh yeah.
On information and making notes with your own personal experiences, and where to use your visual aids, and use somebody to is all that stuff, and then your practical application and all that goes along with it during the class.
Sure.
To break it up, and of course you get much better at it over time, and then after a while you just make small adjustments, and you could
Almost like autopilot.
Yeah, you could just shit that thing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely hits different. If you've never been a platform instructor, you've never had, I don't know, how big were your class sizes?
Right around 20 usually.
20. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you public speaking, and you're up in front of people, and not only that, these kids are smart now. Like, they know everything.
Yeah.
And so you got to, like, I remember being an instructor and getting in those master lesson files and getting deep into the weeds. I learned more about the profession than I ever learned before.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So
because you're diving into the pubs.
yeah,
Seeing,
it's not only that you know what to do, but you discover why, and
yeah.
who, and the big thing is why. Yeah.
And then you're like, man, this could really be, some of these things could really be rewritten. You know what I mean? You're
Oh
diving
yeah.
into that. You're like turning stuff in. You're like, hey, what can we do with this? How can we adjust this
Yeah,
to
and I'm
make it,
not sure that we as an
you know?
institution like the Marine Corps, uh, who am I? I'm nobody. But I don't think any new doctrine's been made. You had information come out, maybe one other one, but we didn't like write doctrine on IED defeat and discovery, I don't think. And we didn't write doctrine on how to patrol an urban environment in the Middle East, I don't think.
Right.
And if we did, my bad, big Marine Corps, I'd love to know that it's out there.
Yeah. I mean,
But it's
even
just
going
weird
back,
to me.
yeah, even going back to like, the yellow jug thing and then the metal detector, but then we started utilizing the sickle,
Uh-huh.
like I don't know, like that stuff was just theater specific things. But there should always be
But they
something.
should be written down in case we
Yeah,
go
it
back
should
to
be.
that fucking theater.
Yeah, you're right.
Because if it's in 10 or 15 years and all of us are gone and out and whatever, we're not instructing anymore, somebody should be like, well, what they did in,
Yeah.
the back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, and it sucked to be the guy that had to do it, but it's necessary. You need to know how to do it because if not, someone's going to get hurt.
That's it. And that's the point of doing the exact point of that show is that this information, be it not doctrine, is fine, but somebody can come find this and
Yeah.
say, well, this
Yeah.
is a look at how they used to do it or how
Yeah.
they did do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So they don't have to learn those lessons in blood.
That's right. They've already
So-
been learned in blood. There's no reason that we have to do that twice.
Yeah. So
Do it right.
the schoolhouse was great. I just got burned out after a while. I mean, about halfway in.
It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean,
I think a lot of people go into the schoolhouse instructor bit thinking that, they're going to have some time off. They're going to be non-deployable. And like hands down, it was the hardest job I had in the Marine Corps, including deployment. Being right there at home and being on a deployment sucks.
yeah.
Like for that cycle, you're there. You're just there.
Long days, dude. Long days, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I went through multiple staff and COICs there. All of them phenomenal. All of them great, great leaders, great teachers, would challenge you every day. Just to not suck. You know what I mean? Like you're the example for those Marines coming through the door that want to be, want to do your job.
Want to be you. Yeah.
Yeah. You need to teach them to be better than you.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? You want them to be better because it makes your job easier in the long run.
Yeah, and like people forget, like this is a small Marine Corps. You might be there, advanced school guy, and they might end up in one of your sections later.
Yeah.
So when you train them bad, now you're going to be working with that. So I think that we do a good job of knowing where they're going, knowing where we're going, knowing who they're going to, our friends potentially, and so you want to put out the best product you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then from I think I was like 2 years in, they were like, "Hey, this is becoming a you're going to be able to get your special duty assignment out of this." So we were like, "Oh, cool." We're like, "Will our time be grandfathered in?" Because we had already spent 2 years there, or whatever it was. Maybe it was one, and because what was it, a 3-year billet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was one. So they're like, yeah, we're going to send you guys through a condensed combat instructor school since you guys have already been doing this. You're just going to go through like, we had to do the platform training, all that.
Like SOPs and shit like that.
Yeah,
The
was
formal
locked on.
stuff.
Yeah, yep, all the formal stuff and everything. And then we had to teach class and all that. And then I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks long, maybe. And then, we got our MOS and, they kicked us back. But they were saying our time was going to be grandfathered in. They were going to let us choose whether we wanted to restart our time or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember a handful of us were like, nah, we don't want to restart our time. We want to, let's just continue on. I got 2 more years and then I'll be back in the fleet or whatever it is, another year.
Sure.
So then, it ended up turning out, nah, hey, your time's starting all over again. Time starts now, 3 more years.
And you were there so you were there at 4 years total?
I was there almost 4 years when I got out.
Oh man.
Yeah. And you want to talk about being burned out by that time? I mean, I was to that point, but you got to show up,
That's right. You got a responsibility till the last day.
Yeah. And, met some phenomenal guys. I think I ended up doing like, I don't know, 15 or 16 basic courses or something, 13 maybe. I can't remember.
Wow.
A a lot. Yeah. And would have loved to work in some team leaders courses and stuff there, but never got the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then from there, I got orders to 3-7 and I was going to go. So, my wife and I had discussions about it, you know what they're like. They're not always easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was just graduating college as a teacher, and she wanted to start her career. So I had to make a decision. It was like either go by yourself, probably wouldn't end up working out, or get out and find something else. So.
And you chose the latter.
Yeah, I chose my family ultimately. I think that's the way it would have went, even though it wasn't presented like that to me. But we all know how the game goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's admirable that you chose your family. Especially if you're burned out and you feel like you can't give what you once were giving. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's the way. And so, where did you guys resettle to? Where'd you get out to? Back up to Jersey area, or?
Yeah, we decided to come back up here near family.
Yeah.
And then we moved in with so she came home to get a job while I was still in. I still had like 4 or 5 months left, so I moved in with a buddy. He let me stay at his place until I got out. And then we moved in with my father for a little while, and then we bought a house. For a few months, and then we bought a house.
And where'd the journeyman path kind of start?
Oh, the lineman thing? So I got a job initially with an electrician, and
no, was that your plan getting out, or did you just get out and say, fuck it, I'll wing it and I'll find something?
I kind of, so initially I got out and I got right into the State Police Academy up here.
Okay.
It didn't work out for me. I got hurt after like 6 or 7 weeks. My wrist, busted up my wrist, and so I got dropped. I was able to go back if I wanted to, but at that point I was like, no, there's no way I'm going through another boot camp.
It'd be tough.
Yeah, I just wasn't going to do it. And mentally, I don't think I was there for it anymore. I was done,
Sure.
And then, so then I needed to find a job once that happened. So I got a job with an electrical contractor. It was good work and everything, but I wanted more, So then I ended up applying and getting into, our utility up here. And then was able to, after about a year of doing some dispatcher work, working in an office, I was able to bid into one of these positions here and, start my lineman apprenticeship.
Yeah, that's dope. And we talked about it a little bit before, but talk about that as a transition job as far as what you like, pros and cons kind of thing for the guys that may be transitioning out there listening to the show.
Yeah, it's great work. You're going to be around like-minded people as ourselves. It's not always easy work. There is, it can be very difficult at times. But you're going to deal with like-minded people, and that's what I say. It's not the same work, obviously, but it's, the work might be hard, but guys are going to talk to you like men. You know what I mean? You got to have a thick skin because guys are going to break your balls about stuff, and that's what makes, those long hours you sometimes have to work great. You know what I mean? And then also, you're going to make good money. You know what I mean? Because it's, even though it's a very safe job, it's a dangerous job,
Oh, that's fact.
Yeah.
There's rules that have to be followed in that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And from day one there, I was like, they're like, be careful who you say that stuff to. I'm like, nah, dude, it's nothing. This place is like, it reminds me of the Marine Corps so much sometimes,
Well, that's great. That makes for a good transition, I would assume.
Yeah. With your, because they got like a chain of commands, a little different, all that stuff, however you want to word it and everything. But, it's still all there, your small unit leadership and everything like that,
Sure.
Your leadership at times.
And you got personalities and you got you got storms and mini deployments to ride in trucks with.
Yeah, guys get tired and pissed, and you know what I mean. Like it's just nature of the job,
Yeah.
But it's a great time. I'm really enjoying it. Got a couple more years left.
Now, how long do you have to apprentice before you don't have to apprentice?
So the way ours works at our utility is like it's about 4.5 years total. And every year you test out to go to a different classification, a higher classification, and then you go back to class, and then it repeats until you actually pass your last test, your journeyman's test. So, yeah, and I'm in year 2 now, so a couple more years to go.
Hell yeah. And so once you pass, okay, so 2 more years comes, and then let's say you take your journeyman test and you pass it, then what? What's that mean?
I mean, now I'm just
Now you're a journeyman lineman and
yeah,
you're
now I'm just
making top pay,
qualified.
basically?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. Yeah, just qualified to do, pretty much everything. And right then when you're, I hear guys say, that's one of the most dangerous times because, you can work everything, but you haven't seen everything yet. You're qualified to do everything, but you haven't done everything.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
they say. It's like,
Got to pay extra attention and not get complacent.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, these guys do a good job at training us and take care of us. So,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what's that? I know that you had a long range instruction, company kind of on the back burner. Is that going to stay on the back burner for a bit, or what are we
yeah,
looking
probably
like?
for a bit, just because of time. I just gotta, sort some things out with that, and then, once I decide to, kick that thing off again, I'll be in touch about it and all that. But yeah, as of right now, I need to
Yeah,
do it.
absolutely, dude. But when the time comes, though, let's get that up and promoted. I'd like to get at least the listening audience and the guys that want to take part. We need to let them know what's up when the time comes.
Yeah.
So you guys in the listening audience definitely be on the lookout for that. Well, dude, we've been going for hour and 45 minutes. Is there any? I got 2 more questions at the end, but is there anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I got something, and I think everybody needs to hear it. I think, suicide has impacted this community, the war fighting community, along with others, and I think it's impacted both of us personally, with people we know, people that we love, and I just want to say, man, if anybody out there listening or anything, or anybody that's hurting, hey, you're not alone, and I don't care what time it is, you know, hit me up on whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever social media platform you might have, I have Instagram and all that. I'm sure Ryan can leave, the link and everything for
Absolutely.
you. And I'm sure Ryan feels the same way as you do, because I mean, even though you may be in some dark places, you got brothers that have been there too. And we're here for one another.
That's
Right.
right.
So I do want to get that out there because, it's just, it's enough is enough.
Yeah,
Like,
it's an epidemic, man, for sure. And I think, um, there's several of us now from the 10, 11 time frame that have lost more people out of combat than we lost in the fucking war. And yeah, we got to put a stop to it. We got to be the generation of change, guys. We generation that talk and go get our help, get our counseling. And most of all, be there for each other. Like Kyle alluded to, enough is enough. Let's not become a confirmed kill for the enemy 13 years later. It doesn't make any sense. And we've all been. We've all been there. We've all been. When the demon calls, it's going to have its way. It has a say too. But picking up that phone, reaching out is far better than approaching it on your own. So let's do better about that as a group for sure.
yeah. And I would say, one last thing is like, when it hit me is like, when you're in, you have that therapeutic advantage I don't even think about, because we tell stories, we talk about past events that have happened. Somebody may have not even been in your unit, but you'll share a story with them or something, and they have the same experience as you. And I think that that's some sort of therapy after thinking back that you don't even realize that you're getting. You may have a couple laughs about it or whatever. You're able to talk about things every single day. Is where it bothered me is when I got out. You stop having those everyday conversations with the warfighters that, that you were with, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You can stay connected, because having a conversation with, normal people, even though I'm getting better at it, it's like, it's not always easy, because you find yourself explaining the acronyms and, different things, or TTPs or SOPs that you all get. You just throw something out there and, we get it. I would just,
Yeah. I think too, a lot of guys, and I talk about it on the show a lot, but a lot of guys are fulfilling a purpose bigger than themselves when they're in the Corps, in the Navy, or whatever service branch, and they don't even realize it. And then when they get out, they're no longer feeling this selfless act and these selfless purpose anymore, and they don't know what's missing, and it's like that void, and it's in their gut, and it's like they don't know what it is, but something's missing. And if you fall in that category, get out there and do something with zero expectation from the person that you're doing it for. Get out there and give back, and you'll fill that up a little bit for sure.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you got to be selfless, and you got to have purpose. You got to have a mission to strive for. If you're waking up every day and you don't have anything to go do, and you're not working out, and you're not keeping yourself to a routine, you're doing yourself a disservice. So don't let yourself fall into that category, that the shuffle aside category, the forgotten about category. Don't let yourself do that. Be proactive in your measures, establish a routine, establish an action plan. You can start as early as right now, and then hold yourself to it. And if you need help, you reach out to somebody like Kyle or myself, somebody you served with, and have those conversations, and then get after it. So Kyle, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and finally, we finally getting this together. We've been talking offline for a while, and finally got it down. So I couldn't be more thrilled to have you on, man. It was an honor to have you on the show, and it was awesome to talk, bro.
Yeah, it was great, Ryan. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, until next time, it's Choices, Not Chances.
Well, that concludes this episode. Thanks for listening to Choices Not Chances podcast. Please share, like, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch our podcast. You can also follow us on social media at Choices Not Chances podcast. Thanks, and have a great day.
Louisiana Gun Shop, your firearm headquarters, specializing in concealed carry guns, ammo, and training. You can get your Louisiana permit with us. Also a large selection of AR-15s, or if you are that build-it-yourself type of guy or gal, we have all the parts to build and customize your own AR-15. Glock, SIG, Taurus, Ruger. We have all the brands, both in the store or at LouisianaGunShop.com.
Not too far. You're marking a building. Hit him. Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot. That's money. Yeah.